Hello? Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's time to share. Maybe I should use this one instead. And maybe put some music.
Is developing a self-aware killer robot that's fueled by social media. Plans to create an autonomous, artificially intelligent weapons system that uses predictive social media analytics to make decisions on using lethal force, understanding what it means, analyzing Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, other social media blog posts, websites, to determine what could possibly go wrong. Confirm that work is underway to develop swarms of self-aware interconnected robots to design and execute killer operations against robot selectors.
And well, looks like we're about to start. We are Starting this thing. There we go. Hello. So my name is Jorge Escobar, and this new playlist and live stream is going to be about learning Microsoft Power BI. I know very little about the tool, but I do know that it exists and it's required for my new position, I think. I think, I know. So, what is Power BI exactly? Well, as the name implies, it has something to do with business intelligence. In reality, it's a dashboard and report creation tool. You obviously connect that tool with data sources like databases and flat files, maybe, I don't know. And you create these animated or well-designed reports. And those reports or dashboards are graphical in nature. So you are not going to see large tables or you are not seeing the data as is, let's say tabular data in itself, maybe. No, you are creating dashboards, and these dashboards, I hope that these are not generated once. I think these are dynamic, meaning that as the data changes through the course of time, you are going to see this graphic go up and down, and well, that's what I think it is. I haven't even tried to Google about the tool really. I've been working with people that use Power BI in the past. I haven't used it myself, but because I'm more involved with databases themselves. In this case, I work more like in the back-end end of things, like working as a database developer or database administrator, or sometimes both. And I create the schemas, I refactor them, I move data from one place to another, and I just recently, let me show you. There we go. Yesterday, I completed this course. I managed to practice most of the exercises, not all. The course may be better, but as a overview or introduction to Informatica, I think it's okay, I guess. One of my observations will be that the installation of Informatica itself is not well documented, because the configuration of the database that is required to install Informatica that's not mentioned at all, and needs a very complex installation. So you just don't install your Oracle database and then go straight forward with Informatica. No, you actually need to create schemas, two schemas and two users, and give proper permissions to them in order for Informatica to actually be able to install correctly. And none of that is explained. I got to troubleshoot the entire thing, and it took me around a week and a half just to install Informatica. So that's what I gave this course, 3 stars out of 5. Other than that, it's a really good course, I guess. But I think that since the author faced the same issues I faced, but he didn't solve them, then I never see him working with databases. Yeah, he just stays with I see he only executes one map in the entire course from Workflow Manager. That's the name of the program, and it's just a pass-through mapping, and he just moves data from one file into another. Well, I guess he doesn't even transform the data. So I guess his years of experience are more with how to create the maps, and the Informatica system must be already installed and configured by somebody else. I guess he's just an user. And that's the part where he focuses on for the rest of the course. But in reality, this course does not train you to install Informatica correctly. So it's not, yeah, it's not good enough for that. Other than that, he just shows in a very brief manner the list of transformations, how they are supposed to be working, and how to. And I will say that the most valuable section was the last one, where he actually teaches you how to schedule your workflows and create reusable worklets and objects, basically, and you're free to experiment from there. One thing that he mentions at the very end of the course is that in order to basically get the most performance out of Informatica, he's actually incentivizing you to transform the data or to create views outside of Informatica, and whatever you can transform before reaching Informatica, the better. Because transformations and moving data around in Informatica tends to be very slow. So, for example, if your mapping includes a lot of joining or routing, or basically if your mapping can be done on the database side, then he basically suggests you to, you know what, maybe this can be just a view on the database, and you can just call the view from the database as is, instead of trying to recreate that view inside Informatica with transformations. So you are going to be saving a lot of performance, obviously, because Informatica is not going to be doing that. So Informatica is pretty much, I guess it's an okay tool for today's standards. If the preferred way to work with it is to actually not use it to create transformations that get too complex or that can be done by the database itself, well, I don't know. It's debatable, I guess. I was doing transformations and ETL work with just SQL in the past, so I don't know why. I guess one thing I had to say is that Informatica allows you to move from several data sources at the same time. Let's say you have a source from Oracle and another one for SQL Server. Then you can pull data out of those different sources, transform it, and load it into a single target database. That, I guess, that's kind of useful. What I did, what I get to when I have different database engines and I need to transform the data, I just do it one database at a time. But I guess that if that's going to be happening often, then I see the value of Informatica, because you can move, if the data is going to be moving back and forth, well, not maybe back and forth, but at least you are going to be moving data every single day or every single week or every single month for data warehouses, for example, or moving data for data lakes. Maybe that's the niche that Informatica tries to occupy, I think. Well, anyway. So that's Informatica, everybody. I got my certification of completion here. And that's it. It was a very interesting thing to try out. Can I share? I guess I can. The one thing I didn't really like is that when you share, it doesn't really show the certificate here. Can I? Yeah, maybe I can just download this. Yeah, maybe there. And there we go. So that should be the way to go to show it like this. But anyway, so welcome to the stream. I guess this is the official starting point, and I've been using up 16 minutes already. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to present myself. I am Jorge Escobar again, and today I'm going to be learning. What is this? I'm getting distracted now. Let me see. Well, it's not showing here. There we go. So today we're going to be learning Microsoft Power BI from this course. So this course comes from the guys that been from Maximilian Schwarzmüller team. And this is, well, there are just two people, Maximilian and this guy. So I already know Maximilian to be a great teacher, but he's, I will say, in the category of tutorial teachers, in the sense that he focused more on understanding the material itself and trying to convey it to us, but he doesn't really prepare the classes that much. He's a tutorial guy, basically. So he doesn't prepare every single step of the lecture. But there is preparation, obviously, and but it's more like an improv every single video. But anyway, let me see. So what are we going to learn here? I guess we should allow this guy to explain it to us. Should we try 2 speed? It depends on the pronunciation of the person itself.
Welcome to this course. Great to have you as a student. Before we dive right into the course, one important information. You can take this course module by module, which is the recommended way to follow this course. But you can also dive into dedicated or selected areas of interest. Both are valid options to take this course, but this first module is a must-watch module. Because in this module, we will build the foundation for the entire course. This means in this module, we'll learn a lot about Power BI already, we'll install Power BI Desktop, and we'll also learn a lot about how to get the most out of this course. And in the end, this is the goal, right? You should learn as much as possible whilst taking this course. Therefore, let's dive into this module now, and let's get started with Power BI.
Okay. So what is Power BI? That's the question.
Let's dive right into the course, and to get started, we should have a look at the most important question first. What is Power BI actually? And this sentence here that was taken from the official Power BI website explains this quite nicely actually. Power BI is here to connect to and visualize any data for self-service and enterprise business intelligence, BI. That's why it's called Power BI, because Power BI is all about working with data, creating visuals, also about collaborating and sharing data for anybody. Now, that's of course a nice first look, but we have to dive a bit deeper here to understand what can be done in Power BI and how Power BI is able to handle all these data-related operations. For this, we can divide our understanding of Power BI into 3 core areas. Why? So why should I use Power BI when I have to work or want to work with data? Who? So who is the right person to work with Power BI? And how? How is Power BI able to handle all these tasks efficiently? Let's have a look at the why first. Why would I want to use Power BI if I work with data? First, Power BI is great if you need to prepare data. Preparing means that you might have data coming from different sources, which are not equally formatted, for example, which might have wrong formats in general, which might have unrequired data, unrequired columns, and so on. So you want to clean or cleanse this data. We'll dive into this concept in this course. So whenever you want to work with raw data that should be prepared or cleaned, then Power BI is your tool. Power BI is also your tool if you want to perform an in-depth data analysis. So once you have the prepared data, you might want to run some analysis based on this information. This can be simple things, for example, like calculating averages or more advanced calculations. This is also possible in Power BI. But we don't stop here. Power BI also allows you to create awesome-looking and easy-to-create drag-and-drop visuals. Humans like charts, like visually well-prepared information, and this is also an area where Power BI really shines. So to summarize this first point, whenever you want to work with data, then Power BI is a great choice. But who is Power BI made for? The answer here is also an easy one. Power BI is made for individuals, for single people, but also for teams in bigger corporations, for example. Because in addition to all these data-driven features, preparation, analysis, and visualization, Power BI is also great to share data and to collaborate in projects in teams. So basically, Power BI again is made for anyone who wants to work with data again. And finally, how does Power BI work? How can you perform all these tasks in one tool? Well, the answer is Power BI is not a single tool. Power BI is a powerful tool set consisting of multiple connected tools. And the three most important tools, which will all be covered in this course, are Power BI Desktop, Power BI Pro, and Power BI Mobile. Now, what are these tools about? Power BI Desktop is here to prepare and create data. This means the preparation, the analysis, and the visualization steps from the first point we're going to look at. These are done mainly in Power BI Desktop. For this, Power BI Desktop is a tool which you can download to your computer for free, but only for Windows machines. That's an important restriction at this point.
Okay.
Power BI Desktop is available on Windows only. But with Power BI Desktop being a local tool, a tool on your machine, it's not made to share projects or to collaborate on projects with other people. This is where Power BI Pro comes into play. Power BI Pro is here to do exactly that, to collaborate in your projects with other team members and to share the results within and outside your organization. Power BI Pro is a cloud application, which is not for free, and which can be accessed with any device. So you don't have this Windows-only restriction that we saw for Power BI Desktop. Collaboration and sharing projects is a very important aspect in the Power BI universe, but Power BI goes even further. Information should be available anywhere on any device and in the most convenient way. And for this, Power BI Mobile allows you to access your data anywhere from your mobile device with a mobile application. So a dedicated Power BI app which connects to Power BI Pro, and with Power BI Pro being connected to Power BI Desktop, you have the perfect data flow and all three tools which have their own purpose in the Power BI universe to make sure you get the most out of your data. So this is Power BI in a nutshell, and in this course you will learn all about these three tools and how these tools are connected to make sure you can then use either all of these tools or pick the tool you need for your specific task. Enough of the theory though, let's get our hands dirty and let's install Power BI Desktop together now in the next lecture.
Installing Power BI Desktop.
Power BI
Okay.
website, and to download Power BI Desktop now, we go to Products and select Power BI Desktop there. By the way, you see more tools than the free ones we just talked about, so Power BI Desktop, Power BI Pro, and Power BI Mobile. The Power BI universe comprises more than these three tools, but as I said in the last lecture, these are the most important and the core tools to understand to be able to work with Power BI. Therefore, we'll focus onto these tools in this course. So, as I said, let's select Power BI Desktop here. And here we now have two options to download Power BI Desktop, download free or see download or language options. The difference here is that download free leads us to the Microsoft App Store to download Power BI Desktop there, which is totally fine. And the right option here is an option which allows us to download Power BI Desktop from this page and to specifically adjust some download settings. I actually prefer this second option, therefore I recommend you to do the same and click onto see download or language options. And now we are on a new page, and if we scroll down a bit, you can first select the Power BI Desktop language you want to download. You can also change the language later in the installer. And down here you find the system requirements, so make sure to have a look at these to make sure that Power BI Desktop runs on your
So I
machine.
think I can run that easily.
To download, and please also select English here as language to make sure you can follow along my steps in Power BI Desktop then. So we download it, and now we have to decide if we have a 32-bit or 64-bit Windows machine. In case you're not sure about this, you can just press the Command key on your keyboard and there type system information. See up here, this option should be selected. And in the system information, in the system type option right here, you see that I have a 64-bit machine. In case you have a different one here, make sure to select the 32-bit option to download Power BI Desktop. I'll go with the 64-bit option therefore, and now by scrolling down and clicking onto next, the download should start. This can take a few seconds, and then we'll see each other in the Power BI Desktop installer. The installation finished, and as I said, you can now also choose a different language right here. As I said, I recommend to stick to English to make sure you can follow along this course as convenient as possible.
Okay.
So we can now click next here. Now we click next once again. We accept the terms in the license agreement and press next. Here we can now change the path where Power BI Desktop should be installed to. I'll go with the default one, and therefore again click next. And now we can create a desktop shortcut here if we want to and start the installation finally.
Okay.
This again can take a few seconds. And now we can press finish, and with that box being ticked, Power BI Desktop will start immediately. And here we are now in Power BI Desktop. This is the starting screen whenever you start a new Power BI Desktop project. And to do our first steps in Power BI Desktop now, we'll now connect Power BI Desktop to source files and then create our first visual already. To connect Power BI Desktop to a source file and to create our first visual, we need a source file, and attached to this lecture, you can find a link to a page where you can find this source file. So please navigate to this
PDP
page and download
source
the file and save
file.
it in a
Oh,
folder
it's an
of your choice.
XLS. Okay.
To access this source file now, we could go to get data over here, but instead we'll now close this window and have a quick look at the Power BI Desktop options. We'll dive deeper into the general options and settings in the next module. Here in this Getting Started project, we just have to make sure that data formats, delimiters, and so on are integrated.
There is an SQL server link.
We go to the file setting over here, go down to options and settings, and there select options. In this new pop-up that is opening, we go down to the current file options down here. And there in the regional settings, this option, we must make sure that the so-called locale, which is important to interpret numbers, data formats, and so on, is set to English United States. If this isn't the case, just open this menu and select English United States, then press OK, and now we can finally open our source file. For this, we go to the Home ribbon here in our project, go to Get Data, and select this option in the upper part. So we click onto this symbol up here.
From multiple
now, the
sources.
Data menu opens, and then we can now see an overview of all the different connectors available in Power BI Desktop. The connector is simply the logic.
There is an Oracle database connector.
Specific file type.
And DB2 database connector.
Excel file. Therefore, the default selection is fine.
Informix, oh my god.
Workbook is selected and press Connect here. Now navigate into the folder where you stored the Excel file, select it and press Open. And now the so-called navigator opens. The navigator allows us to see the information that we have in the source file and to also select specific information of the source file. In case of an Excel file, we could, for example, have multiple sheets, and therefore right here we cannot select.
No, you can select
them. So it doesn't make a big difference here.
Oh.
Then we get a preview of the content of the sheet here in the right part. And if you would have multiple sheets, you could of course select another one. And then by ticking the box next to the sheet name, we get two options down here: load and transform data. We'll explore these options in a lot more detail in this course, so just a quick preview here at this stage. In Power BI Desktop, we have two integrated tools: the actual part where we create the visuals and where we do our analysis, the so-called data model part, and the Power Query or query editor. This is the part where we perform the data preparation steps, so removing columns, changing formats, removing rows, cleaning or cleansing data. This is done in the query editor. And now we can decide if we directly want to load the data into the data model, or if we want to access this query editor first, which would be the transform data option. And typically in such data analytics projects, we always use the transform data step first to clear the data. So let's do the same here, and with that, access the query editor. As this is just the first starting project, we'll not dive too deep into the interface and all the options we have. We'll do this in a lot of detail throughout the course. The purpose of this project here is to get you started with Power BI Desktop. Therefore, just follow along and see how easy it is to work in Power BI Desktop. One important note at this stage though, we are in a new interface here actually, the Power Query Editor. This means if I move this window a bit, you see that we still have the actual Power BI Desktop, well, starting interface so to say running. This at the back here is the data model I talked about. This in the front here is the Query Editor. In this Query Editor, in the center, we now have an overview of the loaded data. So here we have GDP, gross domestic product data for different years and for different countries. And a typical task in such projects now is to have a look at the data to see if we have errors or unrequired data to make sure only the required data that we need for our analysis or visualization is loaded into the data model. Now, if we quickly analyze our columns here, for example, we see that the columns 2, 3, and 4 are not really necessary for our analysis. It's just information that we have GDP data in US dollar billions, which is important, of course, but for our quick project, I don't think we need to load this information into our data model. Therefore, we can now quickly select one of the columns here, and then go to the Home ribbon, and here click on to remove columns in this Manage Columns area in the upper part of this button. If we do so, no big surprise, the column is removed. In the right part here, in these query settings, you see the applied steps we did so far. These were automatically applied by Power BI Desktop, but the last one here was the removed column step. In case you removed a wrong column, or in case you did generally an unwanted, unrequired step in the query editor, you can just select the corresponding step and press onto this X to the left of the name or to undo the step. In our case, we want to remove the columns, so we can simply select all columns now by pressing and holding the control button and then selecting the columns, and now we can go to Home and then remove columns. With this, we reduce the amount of columns already. Now we only have the required data, the country, the year, and the GDP. Another thing we should do now is we should check if the values in the corresponding column, so this data the column contains, are correct and don't contain any errors. I'm mentioning this because, as you can see in the GDP column here, we have NA data, so we don't have data available for a specific country, Afghanistan here, and for specific years. Therefore, we should make sure that this information is not loaded into our data model. Of course, for such a small data set, this doesn't play a big role, but if your data set becomes bigger, then you should make sure to keep only required information in your actual model to, well, remain the project as efficient as possible. To get rid of this NA data, we can simply filter this information out. To open the filter menu, go to the corresponding column that contains the unrequired data, and now open the filter menu by clicking onto this button to the right of the column name. Here, you now have the different filtering options.
Similar to Excel, that way.
But now we simply scroll down to the bottom here to find our NA value, and by unticking this box now, and by pressing OK, you see that this information is now removed from our dataset, and therefore we now only have to check the format, and then we can load our data into the data model. The data format is important here because to the left of each individual column name, so here, there, and there, you see the current format for the values that column holds. For the country column here, if we click onto this ABC symbol, we see that ABC stands for text, which is on the right. For the year, right there, we see 123 stands for whole number, which is not totally correct, as we actually have years in this column. But as the year is a whole number in the end, we can live with that whole number formatting here. But for the GDP, we still have a mix of text and numbers, and that's of course not supposed to be like that. Therefore, we can now go to this menu, as I did here, and now switch it also to a whole number, as we have it for the year.
Okay.
That we have prepared columns, prepared rows, and we work on formats. This now means we are done in the query editor with the data preparation, and can now leave that area of Power BI Desktop and start our analysis, or in our case, our creation of the visuals. For this, we go to the Home ribbon, where we still are, and now press the Close and Apply button in the upper part here. By doing so, we see that the data is now loaded into the data model and we load the prepared data. This means if we now check our loaded information by opening the so-called data view here, first by doing so, we see that the data is Power BI Desktop and start our analysis or in our case, our creation of the visuals. For this, we go to the Home ribbon, where we still are, and now press the Close and Apply button in the upper part here. By doing so, we see that the data is now loaded into the data model, and we only load the prepared data. This means if we now check our loaded information by opening the so-called data view here, the first one here is the report view, this one here is the data view, you see that we have only these 3 columns and the cleared rows. So that's the logic I was talking about. We only have the required information now here in our project. As the year is a whole number in the end, we can live with that whole number formatting here. Go to this menu, as I did here, and now switch it also to a whole number, as we have it for the year. We are done in the query editor with the data preparation, and can now leave that area of Power BI Desktop and start our analysis, or in our case, our creation of the visuals. For this, we go to the Home ribbon, where we still are, and now press the Close and Apply button in the upper part here. By doing so, we see that the data is now loaded into the data model, and we only load the prepared data. This means if we now check our loaded information by opening the data view here, the first one here is the report view, this one here is the data view, you see
that's the data.
These 3 columns and the cleared rows. So that's the logic I was talking about. We only have the required information in our project. Here we could not do our analysis, but for the starting project, we only want to create a visual. Therefore, we go back to the report view right here.
Reports.
And now in this area, we can now drag and drop visuals.
Interesting. That's me at the end of the course.
Visuals can be found here in the visualizations column in the right part of the screen.
Wait, is this another video? Yes, it is. Oh, I almost halfway there. Yeah, I want to try, but I think I'm going to, in order to save time, I'm not going to try to connect to actual databases. I want to complete this course as fast as I can. But I'm going to be right back a little bit because I want some coffee. I'm just going to get some coffee and be right back. I'm going to leave you with some music though, so do not despair. And I'm back. There we go. Okay, so Power BI. I have to say that I really like the design that Microsoft applies to their software, and especially to this thing. It looks very similar to Excel, and I will say that it even looks way simpler. Okay. Okay, so let's see.
And then we can now simply select any visual that might be appropriate for our analysis. I, for example, go for this stacked column chart here. So I click onto the symbol, and then we see our template, so to say, for a specific visual,
Okay.
which we can move around here, or which we can also increase in size. And in some cases, the filters menu here can be collapsed, so you can always expand or collapse any of these menus here to the right. I'll keep the filters open here for the moment, as we'll need these in a few seconds. At the moment, this is an empty visual, so therefore we need to add data to this visual, and we can do this via this fields column here to the right. We can open this query one section here, and there we see the different column names that we had before in the query editor as so-called fields. Now we can drag and drop these fields into dedicated areas of the visual, and with that, the values that field or that column holds will be added to that visual. For example, for such a chart that we have right here, the axis value, so for the x-axis down here, could be the year. So we can now simply drag and drop the year into the axis area, which is a nice first step.
Okay.
We don't see any values for
Yeah,
the
because we
This
don't
means
have
we can
the
always add GDP data
the Y.
field here, and drag and drop this into the y-axis area of our visual down here, like this. Now we have x-axis values in our visual, the different years, and for each individual year, we have y-axis values. These are our GDP data. The problem is that we actually have the GDP data for different countries. At the moment,
Yeah.
the sum of the GDP for all of these countries.
It's
This is
summing
the
up.
third field that we have in our data, the country field, and we can now simply drag and drop this into the legend area of our chart. With this, we see that we have a differentiation for each individual country by color, which makes this chart a lot more insightful. The problem, though, is that we have too many countries. What we could do now is we could reduce the amount of countries being displayed, for example, to the top 4 countries by GDP, so only to the top 4 countries.
Oh, now we're
in our
talking.
dataset. We mentioned this filters column.
Yeah.
We can collapse or expand right here. In this filters column, we can see that we have 3 different filter options in our visual. These are the 3 fields that we added to the visual. And if I want to filter for specific countries by the GDP as value, I can simply go to the country filter now. So I hover over this area, click onto this lower arrow, and with that, open the filter menu for this specific field. We won't use the basic filtering here, so we can open this drop down and instead use the top N filter. This one here.
Top N is already built in.
Or also the bottom if we want to. Go to the top. And now the top 4
That's
countries in my case
4.
by a specific value, and the value here is the GDP. Therefore, we can again go to the fields area and drag and drop the GDP field into that filter.
By
Now we look at the
GDP,
filter with the
oh.
option down here. And with
Oh
this,
my
our chart now
God.
only shows the top 4 countries by GDP.
I will
like
choose
China, Germany, Japan, and the
different
United States.
colors than that.
And now you might say, well, this chart doesn't look too fancy. Why don't we use a more fancy visual type here? This is also possible because we can dynamically change the visual we're currently using by simply selecting the current visual. This is important, so if you click anywhere else in this report, you see that the menu here changes. But if I select the visual like this, you see we have all our options back.
Oh.
Now, if I, for example, select this map visual here, this globe symbol, if I do so, then we should actually see a world map, but in our case, this is not working here. This can happen in PowerBI Desktop. It's a very powerful tool with lots of options, also related to security. In this case, we can simply go to the options and enable these map visuals. For this, we can navigate to the File menu, there go to Options and Settings, go to Options, and now access the Security menu. If we scroll down a bit here, we can simply enable the Use Map and Filled Map Visuals option by ticking this box.
That's
And we're
weird.
down here. The error still is displayed, but if we now switch back to our column chart once again, and then reselect the map, then the map here is finally loaded. You see, that now I have a map with the 4 different countries selected in my previous visual, and the bigger the GPs, the bigger this bubble here gets. What we could do now is, as well, the differentiation for different years is not too helpful. We can simply go to the legend area and simply remove that field by clicking onto this X symbol. With this, we now have 4 bubbles here in our map, which is quite nice actually.
Now
We can do it
that's really useful.
corresponding country name here, and to do that, we can simply navigate into a different area in our visual. So we are again in the visualizations column, and now we leave our fields options here and go to the format menu. If we select this menu, we can simply add the category labels here. If we turn this on, you see now United States, Germany, China, and Japan once again. And with that, we actually finished our first visual already. Now, this is just a quick preview of a lot of features we have in the Create Editor and also in this data model part, but I hope you saw that Power BI is really easy to use and that great-looking visuals can be created quite easily. What's missing here, though, is saving our project, of course, an important aspect, otherwise we use our work, and this can simply be done by going to this Save option up here. If we click it, we can now select a specific area where this project should be saved, and I'll give it a file name of Initial Project. Finished, maybe. And by saving this, we get this PBIX file. These are Power BI project files. And with that, we can now close this Power BI project and continue with this Getting Started module.
Oh, interesting. What's this? It reads, join our online learning community. This course also comes with free access to our Academic community on Discord. There you can find like-minded people, discuss issues, help each other, share progress, successes, and ideas, and simply have a good time. I believe that you learn the most if you don't learn alone, but find learning partners and other people with similar interests. Our community is great. It's a great place for this. It's the perfect complementary resource for this course. Joining is the course. Joining it is of course free and 100% optional. Okay.
We just created our first Power BI desktop project, and some of you might ask, well, this was nice, but actually, can't I use Excel instead? Because Excel also allows me to work with data and to create charts. The answer is yes and no. Of course, Power BI Desktop and Excel overlap in certain areas, in certain projects. But if you look closely at the actual purpose of the two tools, then you will see that there is a clear differentiation between Excel and Power BI. When to use Excel? Excel typically is used for quick calculations in smaller datasets. You want to have a quick sum of a table, a quick average, so any of these quick calculations, and you don't have too many data, too many rows, too many columns, well then of course Excel is the faster and more convenient tool to use. The same applies if you want to have reports in tabular format only. There is a restriction in Excel, again, to the amount of data, because Excel quickly gets to performance problems with bigger file sizes, but assuming that the file size is not too big and you only want to have some table calculations, well, then Excel is also alright. The same applies if you prefer that single tool only approach. So if you just want to do all your calculations and your charts and all these things in Excel, well, then go for it, that's okay. But once you hit limitations in Excel, once you see that you need more than just some quick calculations, some quick charts, and some then a real BI, a business intelligence tool, is the way to go. You should use Power BI instead of Excel if you want to work with big data. File sizes these days can become very large quite quickly, and then Excel hits these limitations I just talked about. Power BI also has limitations, of course, but Power BI can handle way more data than Excel. It's actually made to handle big data. Power BI is also way ahead of Excel when it comes to creating interactive visualizations. We'll see this throughout the course, but you already saw in the introduction project that creating visuals, switching visuals, selecting data with this drag and drop fields feature is very convenient in Power BI, and therefore, well, if you need visuals, awesome visuals, and many visuals, then Power BI is definitely superior. Same applies if you need to collaborate in projects. Collaborating in Excel projects is a bit cumbersome because you have to share the Excel file and so on. But in Power BI, specifically in the Power BI toolset world, so in the connection between Power BI Desktop and Power BI Pro, for example, you can easily collaborate in projects instantly, very efficiently, and also very conveniently. So therefore, you see both tools overlap in certain areas, at least at first sight, but it soon becomes clear where these tools differ and when you should use which tool. So Power BI and Excel are no competitors. Both tools have their own application areas.
And now we get to the actual course outline.
We already know a lot of things about Power BI Desktop already, but what is inside this course? What will your journey in this course look like?
Exactly.
We are almost done with getting started, and in the next module, we'll dive into the course preparations. This means we'll have a look at the typical Power BI Desktop workflow. So which steps are we going through in a typical Power BI Desktop project? We'll explore the interface in a bit more detail, and we'll also dive into the recommended settings to make sure that your and my Power BI Desktop projects are aligned. Afterwards, in the next modules, we'll dive into the query editor. This deep dive will be divided into two separate modules. One module will dive into the data preparation aspect of the query editor. This means we will see how we can work on columns, how we can extract information from columns, how can we delete columns, how can we work on rows, so how can we fix errors in specific rows, how can we change formats, and so on. So how can we prepare data to be able to use this information later on? And in the other module, we'll dive deeper into data transformation. Transformation means changing the initial structure of our project. Specifically, we'll dive into data modeling in this module, so we'll create a specific data schema, which you will also see in bigger data analysis projects. So you will learn how you can apply these slightly more advanced concepts with the help of Power BI Desktop. After we finish our data preparation and transformation, we'll dive into the actual data model part of Power BI Desktop. This part is again divided into three different core areas. One core area will be data analysis expressions, DAX. This is a Microsoft-specific programming language, so to say, so a language that allows us to interact with our data, specifically to perform data analysis steps. A simple example here would be, with the help of DAX, we can calculate averages. We'll of course dive deeper in this course in this language, and also what we can do with this language. Besides DAX, we'll also dive into relationships. Relationships allow us to establish a communication between different tables. In the course, we'll explore why this is important and how we can do this. And finally, as part of this data model part of the course, we'll have a look at reports. Reports are one of the core concepts in Power BI Desktop because on our different report pages, we create our visuals. So we will have a look at how we can create different visuals and about different visual concepts Power BI Desktop ships with. Up to this point in the course, we only work locally as a single user in Power BI Desktop. This means after this core part is done, we'll enhance our Power BI project focus to the cloud. Now we'll have a look at the sharing and collaborating features Power BI ships with, and this means we will leave Power BI Desktop and dive into Power BI Pro.
Oh my God.
Power BI Pro is this cloud application, and in this cloud applications, we will dive into the concept of workspaces. These are dedicated areas in our Power BI Pro cloud that help us to manage our projects. We'll have a look at gateways, which allow us to manage the updating logic of our projects, because if you have a project stored locally in Power BI Desktop and the underlying source data changes, then you might want to reflect these changes also in your project in Power BI Pro. And finally, we'll have a look at apps. Apps allow us to share our projects that we manage in Power BI Pro efficiently inside our organization. After the Power BI Pro concept is clear, we'll finally have a look at Power BI Mobile. Power BI Mobile is a mobile app, and with this app, we can access our projects managed in Power BI Pro from anywhere via a mobile device. In addition to these core concepts covered in the course, you will also find information about how to stay up to date and about how to connect Power BI Desktop to more advanced data sources. All these modules can be found after these core modules of this course. So with this, we are almost done with getting started. There are still some important things we should have a look at to make sure that you get the most out of this course.
Gateways and apps and Power Mobile. BI
this course
Mobile.
was created to turn you into a Power BI expert. But of course, our goal is not only that you finish this course, we also want to make sure that you get the most out of this course whilst taking it. And for this, we have some tips and tricks that you might consider whilst taking this course.
Okay.
The first one is a quite obvious one. Watch the videos. It's a video on demand course in the end, but also make sure to adjust the playback speed in the video player. We do our best to find the right balance between too fast and too slow, but in case you want to speed us up or slow us down, well, then of course, make sure to use this option. Also make sure to follow along actively in this course. This course is an interactive course. We provide project files. We work on real projects here, so you can of course just watch the videos, but the way better learning experience is learning by doing. Follow along the project, download the project files, work with the Power BI tools, because this is what really turns you into an expert in the end. Also make sure to fix errors on your own. This course will comprise a lot of different steps, a lot of different things we do in Power BI Desktop and Pro and Mobile, and things can go wrong. Of course, we got you covered in case things go wrong. We'll see this in a few seconds. But also make sure to apply your already gained knowledge throughout the course to fix any errors or anything that go wrong on your own. Have a look at the data, see if the last applied step makes sense in your opinion, and then simply undo the step and try a different one. Because fixing errors also makes sure that you really understand what you're doing and also makes you a Power BI expert in the end. Things can go wrong now, and we don't want you to sit here for hours without being able to continue with the course. Therefore, make sure to be part of the community. This course has an active community in the Q&A section, for example, where you can ask questions, where you will get answers by ourselves and by our students, but also make sure to contribute to this community. You can also answer questions on your own, because with that, you hopefully help another student with a right answer, and you also apply your knowledge once again. This community part is also, well, part of the entire learning experience here. Therefore, make sure to not only use the Q&A section to ask questions, but also to contribute there. And finally, be creative. So whilst doing the course, or once you finish the course, explore more options in Power BI, create own projects, try to apply what you learn, and try to create even more crazy visuals. Try to enhance what you learn in this course on your own, because again, in the end, project experience, creating own projects, and applying what you learn is what turns you into an expert in the end.
Okay.
With this, we are almost done with the getting started part of this course. There is only one last thing we should have a look at, and this is how you can use the project files that we provide as part of this course. This interactive course comes with a lot of different projects, and to follow along these projects, you need project files and source files. The files used in this course are managed via GitHub. GitHub is actually mainly used by programmers to manage their code efficiently. It can also be used as a simple file storage. We use it as such a file storage, therefore you don't have to know GitHub in any ways to use it. All you need to know is what I show you right now. If you follow the link that you can find attached to this lecture, then you arrive at this page here. If you go to this page, you can find some general information about what you can find on this page down here. But more importantly, you can find this slides folder and this source files folder.
Okay.
These folders contain some general files required to follow along this course. So what you should do now is you should go to this code option over here, click onto it, and now select download zip. If you do that, well,
Yeah, sure.
And then you should have a zip file, which you can open in the downloaded folder then. So I did this right here. Now, if you open and unzip this file, you can see that we have in the slides folder the complete course slides, so these slides here. If we go back, we find in the how to change the file path folder another slide set. I'll dive into this set a bit later. So these are all the slides used in the theory lectures of this course. And if you go back, you can also find this source files folder. This folder again contains other folders referring to different modules of this course. So if we go to the first folder, you find the GDP countries Excel file we used in the first project. If we go back and go to the 03 folder here, data prep creator, you can find 4 different files. If we go back once again to this 04 folder, you can find 3 other files. All these files are used in the dedicated modules and later on. So please save the files in this structure into a folder of your choice, because you will connect Power BI Desktop then to the files stored in this folder. So this is one thing you can find on GitHub, the slides and the actual source files. If we go back to GitHub now, you can also click onto this main button here. If you do that, you see that we have different folders, so to say. We refer to these as branches on GitHub, which are in line with the modules that we have in our course. If you then select, for example, the third one here, Understanding the Basics, which will be the next course module, then you can find 2 files in here. The empty template PBIX file, that's a Power BI Desktop file, and the initial project finished file. This is the finished project file that we just created in the starting project. So if you go to the next module and you don't have this file anymore, or if you want to have a look at my file, then what you do is you simply click onto this file, then select this download option over here. Let's do that. Now this file will be downloaded, and now you can save this file, for example, on your desktop. So I'll paste it right here. Then, in case you haven't done this, click onto the initially downloaded folder with the source files and select Extract All. There you can select a destination path. I'll go with the default one, so we extract it. Now we can close this window. And now in this folder here, we have the source files, and here we can now open the Power BI Desktop project. Let's do this now. This, as always, takes a few seconds. Here we have the project, and now as the underlying data Power BI Desktop is connected to refer to the location on my machine, we have to update this location to the location of the source files on your computer. To do this, you go to Transform Data, but not in the upper part, but in the lower part, so select it. Now you go to Data Source Settings, and here you can now find the different source file connections that you have. As you can see, my GDP countries file is located somewhere on Dropbox, and now you should reconnect that file to the location where you just unzipped the actual source file folder. For this, you select the file you want to reconnect, and remember the file name, so GDP countries XLSX in our case. Go to Change Source. Now open the Browse menu by clicking onto Browse next to the path. Now you navigate to the location where you just unzipped the actual source files. So I have this folder, go to Power BI Course Resources main, Source Files. As this PBIX file is taken from Module 2, I go to the 01 and 02 folder. And there I can find the GDP countries file. Now select this file, press Open, confirm this with OK once, and with Close twice down here. Before we do that though, make sure that the path was updated right here to the correct path on your machine. Now close this, and now press Apply Changes. This can take a few moments, but once this is done, you updated the file path, and now Power BI Desktop retrieves the data locally from the file stored on your machine. And finally, don't forget to save this project with the Save button in the left top corner of Power BI Desktop. And this process works for all modules actually. Let's say that you want to have a specific project state of Module 4. Then you go back to this Power BI Course Resources tab up here, click onto Main, go to 04 Data Transformation Query Editor, close this here. Now go to this 04 folder here, and simply press Download once again. Now this file contains more PBIX file, as you can also find different snapshots for different stages of the project in a specific module. But again, you just take the file you just downloaded, paste it, for example, again on the desktop, right-click onto it, extract all. Yes, we should extract it here. Now this pop-up opens, and there you can find different stages of the project you can dive into. And you can always find the starting and the finished state of a project in the current module. As we're working in the fourth module, you should, for example, open the first project here. That's the same process we just had a look at. You can ignore this apply thing for the moment. Then you would go to transform data again in the low area, go to data source settings. Now we see that we're using these CSV files, for example. So I could select the first one, population 2010 to 2019.csv. Go to change source. Select browse once again. Navigate to my Power BI course resources main folder and go into this folder, go to source files, go to 04, and now I can't find these population files. The reason for this is that we only added the source files once, so there are no duplicate files, so to say. So in case you cannot find this file in the current project folder, just go back to source files and check out the earlier folder. There you can see that we have this population 2010 to 2019 file. We select it, press open, and OK in this pop-up. And now you should see the updated file path. You can then repeat this with all remaining files, close this, apply changes, save the project, and continue. So this is how you can use the attached project files. Also make sure to have a look at the article attached to this lecture, and also have a look at the slides that describe this process again for you in case you forgot an important step. With this, we are well prepared finally to dive into the course. Therefore, let's move on to the next module for some preparations and also to set the general Power BI Desktop basics.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Welcome to this.
Understanding the Power BI Desktop Basics and preparing the course project. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to download off-stream Power BI, install it, and try out this. Create the first report for GDP and see if I can do that. I don't think it's going to be hard to install. Compared to Informatica, this seems pretty straightforward. And coming from Microsoft, yeah, complex installations are a thing of the past, really. I haven't seen an installation so overly complex and hard to do as Informatica for around 20 years already. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in, and see you later.